I walked into the kitchen carrying homemade apple pie, smiling at the thought of family dinner. Then I heard Troy's whisper to his mother Veronica in the dining room. "I think she manipulated me into marrying her." The words stopped me cold. Veronica's response was a knowing smirk I could hear in her voice. "I've been telling you for months, sweetheart. She's not who you think she is." My hands froze on the pie dish, blood pounding in my ears. The betrayal wasn't happening. It had already been happening. For how long? Troy looked up suddenly, catching my reflection in the glass cabinet. His face went startled, guilty. Veronica turned, her expression shifting to sweetness so fast it was jarring. "Brooke, that pie smells wonderful." I forced a smile, set the dish down carefully, and excused myself to the bathroom. My hands shook violently as I gripped the sink. My blood turned to ice in that bathroom. I stared at my reflection, trying to process what I just overheard. This wasn't a casual comment. Troy's tone had been convinced, certain. Like he'd been building up to this conclusion for a while. How long had they been having these conversations behind my back? Veronica's smirk replayed in my mind. That knowing, victorious expression. She wasn't surprised by his words. She'd planted them. Carefully. Systematically. I splashed cold water on my face and returned to dinner. Troy acted like nothing had happened. Veronica smiled sweetly, asking about my day at work. I played along perfectly. But inside, something fundamental had shifted. I wasn't going to cry or confront. I was going to find out exactly what had been said. And then, I was going to destroy every lie with documented truth. My name is Brooke Hammond, and I'm 30 years old. I work in marketing for a mid-sized firm downtown. I married Troy 2 years ago. He's 34, works in IT, mild-mannered and quiet. I thought I was marrying into a kind, slightly awkward but loving family. Troy's father had passed away when he was young, so it was mostly just him and Veronica. At first, she seemed lonely, protective, understandable for a widow who'd raised her son alone. I tried to be kind, to include her, to understand her need to feel important in Troy's life. But small comments started adding up. Criticisms disguised as concern. Backhanded compliments. Subtle ways of making me feel less than. I dismissed it as adjustment, new family dynamics, normal mother-in-law tension. I was wrong. So incredibly wrong. Veronica criticized everything about our wedding. The flowers were too casual. The color palette was tacky. My dress made me look washed out. At the reception, she'd pulled Troy aside, and I'd overheard part of their conversation. "She's not really your type, you know. You usually dated women who read more, who were more intellectual." I'd laughed it off at the time, thinking she was just being typically critical. Troy had shrugged when I mentioned it. "She's just nervous about losing me." But now, I realized those weren't innocent comments. They were the beginning of a campaign. Small seeds of doubt planted carefully, waiting to grow. Veronica wasn't just a difficult mother-in-law. She was strategic, calculating. And I'd underestimated her completely. That mistake had cost me my husband's trust. But I was about to fix that permanently. Veronica had faked a medical emergency during our honeymoon, called Troy crying about a fall, possible concussion. He'd panicked, wanting to fly home immediately. I'd been understanding, supportive. When we got back, I discovered it was a minor sprain, nothing serious. She'd exaggerated because she was alone and scared. Troy had believed her completely. I'd started to see a pattern then. Anytime Troy and I were building intimacy, planning something just for us, Veronica would have a crisis, a car problem, a health scare, an emotional breakdown. Troy would drop everything, and I'd be left standing there, my needs secondary. When I tried to talk about it, He'd get defensive. She's just lonely since Dad died. She didn't mean to interrupt. Every time, I had to be the understanding wife, the patient one. I thought that's what love required. I was building resentment. She was building control. Troy always took Veronica's side. Every single time. When I tried to explain how her comments hurt me, he'd brush it off. She's just blunt. She doesn't mean it the way it sounds. You're being too sensitive. That phrase, too sensitive. He used it constantly. Like my feelings were the problem, not her behavior. I started second-guessing myself. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I was the difficult one. Maybe I needed to try harder. That's what emotional manipulation does. It makes you doubt your own perception of reality. Makes you feel crazy for noticing patterns, for having boundaries, for expecting basic respect. Veronica understood this perfectly. She knew exactly how to play the victim while making me look like the villain. And Troy, wanting to believe his mother was innocent, accepted her version every time. I was fighting a losing battle until I changed the rules completely. Things escalated in ways I hadn't anticipated. Veronica started contacting my friends behind my back, calling them to check in and casually mention concerns about me. One friend finally forwarded me a message that made my stomach drop. "I'm worried about Brooke. She seems obsessed with her ex still. You should talk to Troy about it." I hadn't spoken to my ex in 3 years, hadn't thought about him in longer. But Veronica was planting this narrative with everyone I knew. She'd even called my boss, expressing concern about my mental state at work. My boss had pulled me aside, confused, asking if everything was okay at home. I'd been mortified, humiliated. That's when I started documenting everything. Every text, every call, every lie I could track. I didn't know what I'd do with the evidence yet, but I knew I needed it. The fake screenshots were the breaking point. Veronica somehow created text conversations that appeared to be between me and my ex. The grammar was slightly off, the dates didn't align with actual events, but Troy believed them immediately. He didn't ask me to explain, didn't give me a chance to defend myself, just grew cold and distant, started watching me suspiciously, questioning where I was going, who I was talking to. The trust was gone, poisoned by manufactured evidence I couldn't disprove without looking desperate. When I tried to show him the inconsistencies, he just said, "You could have deleted the real conversations." There was no winning. Veronica had created a narrative where any defense I offered looked like more manipulation. It was brilliant in its cruelty, and it was destroying my marriage systematically. But she'd made one critical mistake. She'd underestimated how far I'd go to protect the truth. Veronica took things to another level I hadn't seen coming. She told Troy's extended family I was embezzling from my job. At a birthday dinner for Troy's cousin, someone casually asked if I was still in trouble at work. I'd stared at them, completely confused. What trouble? They'd looked uncomfortable. "Oh, Veronica said there was some issue with missing money. I thought everyone knew." I'd excused myself, gone to the bathroom, and finally broke down. Not because I was sad, because I was enraged. She'd crossed from personal attacks to destroying my professional reputation. That was when I stopped trying to be understanding, stopped trying to play nice, stopped caring about family harmony. I was going to war, and unlike Veronica, my weapons would be truth and documentation, not lies and manipulation. That difference would matter. Troy called me a liar to my face. I tried to show him proof that the embezzlement rumor was completely false. My employment records, bank statements, character references from coworkers. He just looked at it all and said, "I don't know what to believe anymore." That sentence broke something in me. Not my heart, my tolerance. I stopped trying to convince him, stopped defending myself, stopped caring about his opinion. Instead, I made a phone call that would change everything. I hired a private investigator, not to spy on Troy, to document exactly what Veronica had been doing, to build an undeniable case. to gather evidence so overwhelming that even Troy's willful blindness couldn't dismiss it. The investigator's name was Charlie. "You're not the first woman with a manipulative mother-in-law," he said, "but you might be one of the smartest for calling me." The first thing Charlie found made me physically sick. Veronica had purchased a burner phone 6 months ago. She'd used it to create fake text conversations, spoofing my number using an app. She'd screenshot these fabricated conversations, then sent them to Troy from the burner phone, as if someone had forwarded them to her. That's why Troy believed them so completely. They looked real. The number matched mine, the timestamp seemed legitimate. But Charlie could trace the digital footprints, could prove the messages originated from the burner phone, not my actual device, could show the spoofing software in the burner's app history. Veronica had committed fraud, digital forgery, had systematically manufactured evidence to destroy my reputation and marriage. And she'd documented it all in ways she thought were untraceable. She'd been wrong. Technology leaves fingerprints, and Charlie knew exactly where to look. Things got worse before they got better. Veronica called my parents, crying hysterically, told them she was worried I might be bipolar and unmedicated, that I was behaving erratically, that Troy was concerned but didn't know how to help. My mom drove 3 hours to check on me, terrified. When she arrived at our house, I was working from home, completely fine, normal, confused by her sudden appearance. She'd explained Veronica's call, the concern, the diagnosis she'd suggested. I'd been blindsided, furious. That's when I realized Veronica wasn't just destroying my marriage. She was trying to destroy my entire support system, isolating me from everyone who loved me, making everyone question my sanity. It was sociopathic, calculated, comprehensive. But Charlie was documenting every move, and I was patient, letting her dig her grave deeper while appearing oblivious. I played dumb for weeks, acted polite at family gatherings, smiled at Veronica's backhanded comments, attended dinners like nothing was wrong. Meanwhile, Charlie was recording phone calls where Veronica bragged to friends about handling the Brooke situation. He traced message origins, pulled browser history from the burner device that showed research on how to fake text conversations, documented her calls to my workplace, my friends, my family, built a timeline of her campaign against me. Every lie, every manipulation, every piece of fraud. It was comprehensive, undeniable, professional, and it was growing larger every day. Veronica thought she was winning. She had no idea I was building a case that would destroy her credibility permanently. Patience and documentation, those were my weapons, and they were far more powerful than her lies. Charlie caught Veronica on audio bragging to a friend. She'd met someone for coffee, thinking she was safely away from anyone who'd recognize her. But Charlie had placed a recorder on her purse earlier when she'd visited our house. "Oh, please, by the time I'm done with this, Troy will be done with her," Veronica said, laughing. "She's not wife material, never was. I'm just helping him see what was obvious from the start." Her friend had asked if she felt guilty. Veronica's response was chilling. "Guilty? I'm protecting my son from a gold digger. She trapped him with that wedding. I'm just setting him free." She laughed again. No remorse, no self-awareness, just pure manipulation. Charlie got every word. Clear audio, time-stamped, admissible. Veronica had confessed to her entire scheme without realizing she was being recorded. That recording alone would end this. Troy started coming home later and later. Our conversations became minimal. One night, he said something that made me know the end was near. Maybe we rushed into this marriage. Maybe Mom was right that we didn't know each other well enough. He was building his exit, justifying what he was about to do. Veronica had finally convinced him completely. I was the villain, the manipulator, the problem. He was the victim who needed saving. I bit my tongue, didn't argue, didn't defend, just watched him pull away emotionally, because I knew something he didn't. The truth was coming, documented, undeniable, devastating. And when it arrived, everything he believed about me, about his mother, about reality itself would shatter. I just had to wait a little longer. And I'd gotten very good at waiting, very patient, very calm, very ready. I decided it was time. Charlie had everything we needed, Months of documentation, irrefutable evidence, professional analysis. I called my parents and Troy's extended family, invited everyone to dinner at our house. Just a nice family gathering, I'd said. Something special. Troy looked confused, but agreed. Veronica was thrilled, probably thinking I was finally giving up, making peace, accepting my place. I spent 2 days preparing. Not just the meal, the presentation, the folder, the timing, everything had to be perfect. This was my one shot to expose the truth so completely that no amount of gaslighting could undo it. I printed out every piece of evidence, organized it chronologically, made it impossible to deny or dismiss. Then I waited for everyone to arrive, calm, focused, completely certain about what was about to happen. This wasn't revenge, this was liberation. Dinner was beautiful. I'd made Troy's favorite meal, set the table with our good china, lit candles. The conversation was light, pleasant. Veronica beamed across the table, probably thinking she'd won. Troy sat distant, barely looking at me. My parents watched me with concern, still worried about Veronica's mental health warnings. Then I brought out dessert, along with a thick manila folder. I placed it in the center of the table. Before we eat this, everyone needs to see something. This folder contains documentation from a private investigator. It's everything you need to understand what's really been happening in my marriage. The room went silent. Troy's face showed confusion. Veronica's face lost all color immediately. She knew. Just from the words private investigator, she knew exactly what was coming. And there was nowhere to run now, nowhere to hide, nowhere to manipulate her way out. Veronica tried to laugh it off. "Oh, this is ridiculous. This is all fake. She's trying to turn you against me." Her voice was shaking. Troy opened the folder slowly, started reading. The first page was a timeline of her campaign against me. Dates, actions, evidence. The second page showed the burner phone records, who purchased it, when, how it was used. Then came the screenshots of her research into spoofing apps, the fake text conversations she'd created, the calls she'd made to my workplace and friends, her audio recording bragging about destroying me. Everything, page after page after page. Troy's hands started shaking. His face went from confused to horrified. "Mom," he said quietly, "what the hell is this?" Veronica stood up quickly, too quickly. Her chair fell backwards. "Troy, don't believe this. She's manipulating you with lies." But the evidence spoke louder than any denial could. He saw the truth, finally, completely, undeniably. Troy spent 20 minutes reading every page, listening to audio files on my phone, watching video of Veronica meeting with her friend, bragging about her scheme. His expression changed from shock to disgust to devastation. "You did all this?" he asked his mother. "You lied about her? About everything?" Veronica's composure cracked completely. "I was protecting you. She's not good enough for you. I did this because I love you." Troy shook his head, tears streaming down his face. "You destroyed my marriage, my trust, everything." He looked at me. "Brooke, I'm so sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry." But it was too late. The damage was done. Trust, once broken this completely, can't be repaired. I'd known that. I'd accepted it. This wasn't about saving my marriage. It was about saving my reputation, my sanity, my truth. Veronica went pale, then paler. Then she collapsed, literally fell to the floor. Someone screamed. Troy dropped to his knees beside her, panicking. "Mom, Mom!" Someone called 911. The paramedics arrived within minutes. I didn't move from my chair, just watched it all unfold with complete calm. I wasn't being cruel. I was just done performing emotion, done caring about her well-being, done playing the concerned daughter-in-law. She tried to destroy me systematically. I'd simply exposed her truth. If that truth was so devastating she physically collapsed, that wasn't my fault. That was hers, the weight of her own lies crushing her. The paramedics stabilized her and took her to the hospital. Stress-induced panic attack, they said. Not life-threatening, just dramatic. Even her collapse was performative, trying to regain control through sympathy. It didn't work.
The hospital didn't save Veronica's reputation. By the next morning, the family group chat was exploding. Troy's cousins, aunts, uncles had all seen the evidence, seen the documentation, heard the recordings. People started apologizing to me. "I'm so sorry I believed her. I should have asked your side. I can't believe she did this." The messages poured in, genuine, horrified, ashamed. Veronica's silence was deafening. She had no defense, no explanation, no way to spin this. Her lies were documented professionally. Her manipulation was exposed completely. The family that had once thought I was the problem now understood who the real problem had always been. She'd lost everything: her influence, her credibility, her relationships, and she'd done it to herself. I hadn't destroyed her. Her own lies had. I just made sure everyone could finally see them clearly. 2 weeks later, I walked into Troy's office building carrying divorce papers. I dressed professionally, hair perfect, makeup subtle, completely composed. I walked past security, took the elevator to his floor, and knocked on his office door. He looked up, surprised to see me. "Brooke?" I handed him the folder without emotion. "These are divorce papers. You chose to believe your mother's lies over my truth for months, despite me begging you to see what was happening. You believed fake evidence without question, but demanded impossible proof for my innocence." My voice was steady, cold. "I'm not interested in fixing this. I'm not interested in apologies. I'm just done. You can keep your mother. I'm choosing myself." I turned and walked out, didn't look back, didn't wait for a response, just left. Clean, final, over. I moved into a cozy apartment above a downtown bookstore. Small, quiet, mine. No constant criticism, no walking on eggshells, no defending my every action, just peace. I started reading again, books I'd been too stressed to focus on. I started smiling again, real smiles, not forced for family dinners. I felt physically lighter, like I'd been carrying weight for 2 years without realizing it. The divorce was finalized within 3 months. Troy didn't contest anything, signed everything quickly, sent a letter apologizing again. I didn't respond. Apologies without changed behavior are meaningless, and he chose his mother's toxicity over my partnership. That told me everything. For the first time in years, nobody was watching me to tear me down. Nobody was manufacturing lies about me. Nobody was trying to control my relationships. The freedom was overwhelming, beautiful, mine, finally mine. Veronica lost everything trying to break me. Her son stopped speaking to her after the truth came out. The family ostracized her for the manipulation and lies. Her friend group disappeared, embarrassed to be associated with someone capable of such calculated cruelty. Her church community distanced themselves after hearing what she'd done. She ended up alone, isolated, the exact fate she'd tried to create for me. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt sad. She'd destroyed her own life trying to destroy mine. She'd sacrificed real relationships for the illusion of control. She chose lies over love, and now she had neither. Her son, her reputation, her community, all gone, because she couldn't accept that Troy loved someone other than her, because she couldn't let him build a life separate from hers. That possessiveness cost her everything. Not because I destroyed her, but truth always wins, eventually, inevitably, permanently. I didn't just survive Veronica's campaign, I thrived afterward, found a peace I hadn't known was possible, built friendships without constantly defending myself, dated without baggage, worked without manufactured crises, lived without manipulation. Someone asked me once if I regretted hiring the private investigator, if it had been worth the cost. I'd smiled, every single penny. Because when someone builds an elaborate trap for you, complete with lies and false evidence and systematic manipulation, and you step over it with documented truth and grace, that's not revenge. That's power. That's justice. That's refusing to be destroyed by someone else's toxicity. Veronica tried to bury me, but she forgot that some of us know how to document, how to gather evidence, how to wait patiently while truth reveals itself. She lost because lies require constant maintenance. Truth just sits there, waiting to be discovered. And I'd made sure it was discovered comprehensively, permanently, undeniably. That folder didn't just save my reputation, it gave me back my life.